I hope you had a nice July 4th. I did. And I spent it reading a new book by Stephen Ambrose, the great historian, called America, The Personal Reflections of an Historian. And it reviews American history and makes certain points that are important that have been widely misunderstood and seeks to correct them. And today I want to talk to you about the chapter on the Battle of New Orleans. I learned in school, as I'm sure you did, that the Battle of New Orleans was a decisive American victory led by Andrew Jackson, but that it occurred after the war had ended. The peace treaty of Ghent in Belgium negotiated an end to the War of 1812 with essentially no winner and no loser and no real change. And the battle took place several weeks after the treaty was signed. But because of the time lag in the news coming from Belgium to the United States, we didn't know it and the British troops didn't know it, and they fought the battle as if the war was still on. So it's seen as kind of a consolation prize for a war in which the U.S. didn't do too well and made us feel better about our national pride and elevated Andrew Jackson to hero status. But Ambrose argues that that is entirely wrong, that the Battle of New Orleans represented one of the most important victories in American history, and that without Jackson's effort, it would have been a totally different United States of America today. He points out that the British sent an army of 10,000 men, led by General Pakenham, who was the Duke of Wellington's brother-in-law and his top general, and that these were all veterans of the Peninsula Campaign, in which Wellington defeated Napoleon. And they were the best troops Britain had. And they were equipped with machinery and equipment that would permit them, motors, that would permit them to go up the Mississippi River, not just down it. And that their goal was to capture New Orleans and then capture the Mississippi and fortify it and essentially undo the Louisiana Purchase and give the Louisiana Purchase land to Canada and therefore to Britain. And had that happened, Canada and Britain would have dominated the whole west of the United States. They already owned the Oregon Territory, Washington, Oregon, and parts of Montana and Idaho, and it would have been a very, very different and more truncated United States today, ending at the Mississippi River. Well, they didn't win the Battle of New Orleans, and the story is familiar to you and one that's really gripping. Ambrose makes the point that this was the most integrated army in the world. Whites from Tennessee and Texas and all kinds of different places, Cajuns from Louisiana, former slaves, freed black men and current slaves, Latinos, Chinese, Jews, Germans, a polyglot of nationalities that were assembled in New Orleans, and even a pirate, John Lafitte, who enlisted with Jackson with his pirate band. And that motley crew of 4,000 men managed to defeat 10,000 British with only a few casualties, but massive casualties on the part of the British. And he details the British arrogance and the failure to do reconnaissance and all of the many failings that led to that defeat, and the electric impact of it on the United States. Andrew Jackson has had a tough ex-presidency because people have blamed him for forcing the Indians on the Five Nations in the South on the Trail of Tears, where they were forced to go west from the southern states and infected with disease, some say deliberately, by the federal government. But Jackson absolutely earned his place in American history by decisively saving the United States. That was probably the most important battle in America after Yorktown and before Gettysburg. Thanks for watching.